Galia Acharja, we're delighted we asked you to, gave you your right to disconnect there over lunch. We're asking you to reconnect now because we're delighted to present a panel focused on resilience, focused on getting on with it, focused on humans too, because we have our entrepreneur panel here, local heroes, I should say, a panel chaired ably by Mary Rogers, CEO of Portishead. For those of you who don't know what Portishead is, it's a space as well as an organization that supports startups here in Galway, and their success story speaks for themselves. In her description, I love Mary's subtitle, if you like, which is Entrepreneur Amplifier. A bit of a mouthful, but I think it gives a sense of what Mary's priorities are. I'm not going to introduce her panelists, but I do want to name the names of their either the businesses or their organizations, because it's really an eclectic mix. We have on Snobby Sauce the Ihane. We have Graw chocolates. I mean, let's, you know, how seductive. We have Dobro's Pizza. The best pizzeria in Europe is here in Galway, and we have the co-founder. Half of IUA Galway student population can be found there any day of the week. And we have Mr. Waffle himself, Mr. Waffle's cafe across the road for half of the university staff population can be found there. Okay, I'm going to butt out now. We have about 40 minutes on your topic, Mary, and I'll come back. Any questions that come in through Zoom, please throw them into Zoom, and we'll be back to ask them to the panel directly in about 40 minutes. Thank you, folks.
Brilliant, and welcome everybody, and it's great to be here today, and what a privilege to be with this panel, and it's such a mix of entrepreneurs and across the west of Ireland, right down into Clare, so it's fantastic. I might kick off by just asking everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll go to the hard questions. Grania, do you want to tell everyone about Graw Chocolates?
So my name is Grania Mullins. I am the owner and founder of Graw Chocolates. So we set up just 16 months ago, and we're a luxury chocolate brand that specializes in hand-painted chocolates. And I put a lot of attention into the fillings inside them, and I use mainly Irish ingredients, something really truly luxurious and special, and it's a real treat.
Brilliant. Ken?
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Nugent, or more commonly known as Mr. Waffle, I suppose. I'm the owner of Tribe Hospitality Group, and I like to say that it's the largest Indigenous hospitality group in Galway. We own and operate 7 locations, and we currently employ 85 staff. Well, yeah.
I am June Curtin, and I am the founder of Snobby Sauce, a community of swimmers who swim in Spanish Point Beach 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Oh yeah, my name is Ronan Graney. I am one half of the Dobros. We run a pizzeria in the heart of the city. I suppose when COVID happened, we launched our online business which is our DIY pizza kits, where people can make our pizzas at home, which has been a revelation for us. But yeah, love what we do, love pizza, and good to be here.
Yeah, and you're all very welcome, and thanks so much for taking the time out today. Ronan, we might start with you because it was quite interesting. Before the lockdown, Dobros made the decision to close the shop. So can you tell us how that came about?
Yeah, look, a mad time for everybody, a crazy time for the world, I suppose. But we just, I don't know, heard rumblings and rumors of what was happening. And I suppose for me, I actually lived with a Chinese student who had family over there. So I actually had firsthand information of kind of what was happening at that time. But yeah, look, I remember coming into the restaurant on a Friday. It was that Friday we closed, and I looked at the diary, the numbers for the night before. We were really busy, and it just, for us, just didn't feel right at that time. Just, I suppose, we had a duty of care to our customers and our staff at that time, and just made that decision to close. Obviously, an incredibly hard decision. It wasn't one that was taken lightly. A few heated discussions in the office was had, but we came to that conclusion, and glad we did, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it probably turned out to be a really good decision, and we'll come
yeah,
back
absolutely,
to that.
yeah.
And so, Grania, you set up your business during the pandemic. You were saying earlier, 16 months ago. So, like, where did the inspiration for Graw Chocolates come, and then how did it flip from inspiration to fully fledged Brown Thomas business?
Yeah, so I'm a pastry chef. So when we went into lockdown, my world was turned upside down, really. I went from having a chocolate block schedule to almost nothing for a year. So I just tried to keep myself busy. I was making cakes every day. And at Easter time, I decided to make hand-painted Easter eggs for all my friends and family and posted them on social media. And loads of people started reaching out, asking could they buy them. So I only had one mold at that stage. I couldn't do it, was impossible, but it got my mind thinking, So I got onto my local enterprise office. I started building a business plan. I did 3 business courses simultaneously, and within 3 months, I had launched the business. So it was very quick. It was very busy, and even on launch night, the site crashed because there was too much traffic, and we actually sold out in 8 minutes for those who could get on. So it was a crazy start.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
sure.
amazing,
Wow.
and scaling all the time, which is fantastic. And June, it's really interesting because I was watching an interview you did on Facebook maybe last year, and you said, I have 6,000 followers, and isn't it great? And then I looked last night and you've 24,500 followers on
Yes.
Instagram. So what attracted the people to your online
It's
community?
crazy. I suppose also in the pandemic, sea swimming really took off. You know, a lot of people were struggling with their mental health. And when I founded Snowy Sauce, I was struggling with my own mental health, I suppose. And I came to the realization that you can't serve from an empty vessel. And if I wasn't well, I couldn't look after my children. So I started sea swimming, and I knew how I felt every day when I came out of the water. And I suppose I wanted to share that with other people. And also I knew I wouldn't commit to getting into the water every day. Like you were saying, your friend has gone back and
Yeah.
you're not as
I miss it
inclined to
now,
get in every day. And I
exactly.
knew that I wouldn't do it on my own. And so I decided then to set up my page, and I suppose it grew from there. And I suppose the funny thing is really, although I have founded Snobby Sauce and I have almost 25,000 followers, I still can't swim. You know, and they're coming from the 4 corners of Ireland to join me, and I'm probably the only person in the water who still can't swim, but I'm in the middle of getting lessons now, which is good.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of offers of people wanting to
Absolutely, yes.
to take you out there. And Kevin, I mean, like you're a steadfast Galway business across, I mean, like from, like, what do we have? Delight, A Sail, Ground and Co, Mr. Waffle, and a partnership with Collins Rugby.
Yeah, so a lot happened in the last couple of years since we took over Salt Hill and established Ground in 2017. So it's kind of been really good. And then obviously we closed on the 16th of March last year. It was actually the 13th of March, I think we signed the contract with Conor Rugby, and we're like, oh, brilliant. And then like 2 days later, we're like, yeah. So yeah, it's been really exciting. Really exciting, obviously really challenging the last year.
Yeah.
But part of me probably enjoyed the challenge as well, to be honest.
And how did you find it with the staff? Because it's been so hard for cafes, I have to say, because 1 minute you're COVID cert checking, the next minute you're closed, then you've got to check IDs. The goalposts keep moving. And so how did you keep your staff motivated and engaged and employed?
Yeah, that was difficult. Like any, I think we were saying it downstairs earlier on. Like it's a lonely world. Like, so if you're not motivated yourself, it's very hard to motivate others. And obviously, during the last 18 months, there was slumps of myself as well. So it was difficult. Yeah, like the Dobros, we got them involved last year. You know, that kit, it was just we set up a big, large WhatsApp group. There was 100 something staff then at the time when we closed. And we did a thing with the Yoga Mara, 2 local girls, Hannah and Rachel, and we put in the train station gym, and we had this kind of thing that we would all try and do something every day. So we kept that connection going. It was great. And then when we got back open, it was kind of like trying to keep the connection going, you know, because it was very hard to socialize because of COVID. And the Dobros kit was another revelation, because then we were all sending our pictures in the WhatsApp group and making pizzas at night and stuff. So just doing as much as we could for them. Obviously, you know, that was the main thing, trying to keep the connection. We've lost a lot of that staff that have moved on, that probably would have moved on anyways. It's just unfortunate that they've moved on, and they, you know, we've lost out on those connections that we would have still had. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, and you raise an interesting point about, you know, like we all hit brick walls like some days, and I guess this is a question for everyone on the panel. Is there anything that you adopted during COVID to survive, or to get through the day that you've kept going, or what was your key resilience thing that you did during COVID? We'll start with you, going.
Mine was definitely trying to get out for a walk, get that fresh air, trying to have a bit of peace of mind, and definitely then trying to meet up with friends, which is something I really missed, I suppose, in the lockdowns. And now that the world is reopen again, that social part is really, really important. So I do try and keep a good bit of balance in there. Sometimes it's hard to fit it in, but trying to make sure I have time to enjoy myself throughout my week as well is really important.
So true. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I think for me, I have 2 little girls at home, and my priorities would have definitely changed with COVID. So I don't start work now before 9:30 because I drop one of them to school. And if you asked me 18 months ago, I would have gone to work at 6:30 in the morning and forgot about dropping them to school. That won't change. So those sort of things I kept, you know, they kept me entertained, I suppose, for a better word. Yeah. So that was a big shift for me, to make sure that my priorities changed. That now, of course, you do work till like 12 o'clock at night. So
Yeah.
is the priority different? I don't know, but at least I get to drop her to school and have that connection with her. So that's been a big thing.
Well, June, we know you were swimming, but
For me, it was the sea every
Yeah.
morning. I suppose it was the one thing that I lived for. And sometimes even for my community, when the 5-kilometer rule was in place, that was the only thing they had, and probably the only people they would meet in the day would be the community of swimmers. So I think it was great all round.
yeah, it was really interesting because you did stop the community swim officially, kind of.
Yes, absolutely. And just
how did
kept
that
it
work?
to
Yeah.
kept it to locals, anybody within the 5 kilometers. But then somebody said to me one day, you know, they said, define mental health. And if, you know, if you feel that you need to go beyond the 5 kilometers because you're struggling with your mental health, well, I certainly wasn't going to turn anybody away,
Yeah.
you know.
And the sea swims started to pop up then in different places, didn't they? Which
It
was lovely.
started to pop up, which was great. Started moving around the different beaches in Ireland, promoting the benefits of sea swimming. Yes.
And Ronan, any habits you took up?
Just like that, like I always like getting outdoors and being an active person. But I think even myself during COVID, it was kind of easy just to kind of fall into a slump of, you know, not getting out or not doing a thing because there wasn't huge amounts to do. But I think restoring that love of the outdoors, being active, going for swims, you know, being out and like that. Yeah, just being active, I think it's just really helped.
Yeah, me too. I started the walking thing and I'd never be home in Curfin because I'd always be at work. And then you're like, I didn't even realize the roads or the back roads or the parks. And it was really fun. I also started to cook at home, but my teenagers have said, please don't anymore. We prefer dad's cooking, which is fair enough. I'm quite happy with that too. We'll stick to the kits and the thing.
Yeah.
But so that it's really interesting, the resilience piece. And Kevin, I come back to you because of Mr. Waffle and what happened like across from University College Hospital and very near the university. We've got a Mr. Waffle and the mental health cafe. And the story behind that is really interesting. Can you share it?
Yeah, I suppose, again, social media, we're all talking about it 3 years ago. There was a tweet put out about a project that started over in England, and the guy that put out the tweet, Niall O'Toole, he was actually in secondary school with me and read the whole concept, and I was like, obviously at that time, even, you know, 3 years ago, there was a huge upsurge in cases of people with mental health issues, and we just said, look, because of our proximity to the hospital and what they were doing in the UK, we'd love to get involved. Kind of didn't do anything, wasn't even sure if anything had happened after that, and then it took till last December to get it launched. I suppose there was a lot of, from our side, I suppose, what we had to do was make sure that it was safe to hand over the premises to them. There's insurance policy and you're dealing with the HC, and there's other people were dealing with funding issues and training staff and moderators and stuff like that for it. So it was a long road, but it just kind of launched. Either you could say it's the wrong time or right time. I think it's actually the right time because what people are probably facing after COVID with mental health issues, it's seen like the uptake since it launched in December has been phenomenal, and they've actually had to take on more staff to operate it themselves at night time. So the model is there. I suppose what needs to be done is the funding is there now for another while, is can this be brought to Cork and Dublin, and there's no uniqueness about Kevin Nugent. There's other people that have coffee shops in Cork that would gladly put their hand up, and because we give it free of charge. So it's they need that facility. So if they can find those people, they'll be able to pilot the scheme, and obviously that's where I'll come in for the next 12 months to be able to demonstrate that what we can do. It's quite easy really if everybody's on board with it, and then that they can roll out more of these across the country.
Yeah, I think a key element of that was the nighttime factor, like that peer-to-peer community coffee shop that kind of flipped from your day into a space for people during the night.
What I could never understand is if the cases seem to be always in the evening that you read in papers.
Yeah.
But if you go to the hospital, there's nowhere for you to go.
Yeah.
So we don't need the cafe after whatever 6 o'clock. So that's where the idea came, and yeah, I think that it could be really good. It is really good. I think it would be really good if it does launch across the country. The government have been down recently and had conversations with ourselves and the operators, you know, the pros and cons on how to set it up and stuff. So there's definitely something that can come out of it, I think.
And a really clever piece was, you said, when you go to the community coffee shop, you're given a menu, like, do you want to talk? Do you want to just sit and read? Like, how engaged do you want to be? Which was really nice, because sometimes you probably want to go in and not talk. Right?
Yeah, I suppose what my big concern when I first started, so Mr. Waffle I love is the glass concept, you know, is in the openness of it. But obviously if you're coming in at night time, you want privacy. You don't want your neighbour passing by outside to see you might be inside having a chat with somebody. So obviously put in blinds, and then we put in a security system that you can see who's coming in. Because of COVID, you have to book, or there's a walk-in system now operating. But you can just come in, you can sit there on your own, and you can sit down and have a chat with the peer leader. And then obviously our own staff have had to get trained up. So our issue was if you use the cafe at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and you come in on Saturday morning, my staff obviously wouldn't be trained to be able to deal with the same situation. So the staff have been involved in it as much as I have, and they've got trained up on how to verbalize with the communications and to make sure that they're looked after at the same time.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And Ronan, like the Dobros kits, obviously hugely popular now. And so, but your customer, this corporate client, is probably different to the NUI Galway student. So how have you managed that transition with staff training or just engagement, or how have you found it?
Yeah, well, funny enough, while Kevin was actually sitting there, he was our very first corporate
Okay.
customer.
Yeah.
So much appreciative of that. But yeah, look, it's just a completely new market, totally different space than we were used to running a hustle bustle pizzeria, having people in, customer facing, having the crack, and that was all we knew really. So having to transition to an online space was actually really invigorating. You know, we found it really positive, something that was